What a joy that you have found us for this podcast. How exciting it is to think that this spiritual message is going out to people around this planet. Whether your life is working at a peak level or whether it can use some enhancement, have I got the message for you today. So get a piece of paper, get ready to take notes, call a friend, have them watch this podcast also. Then you too can have something to talk about and take it to a deeper level. So enjoy. Here we go.
In my best Dr. Christian Sorensen imitation, good morning! You know, it is always a great joy and pleasure for me to come here to Seaside Church. I love this community tremendously. I love the people here. I've taught many classes here at the Holmes Institute, have been involved with doing many sermons. It's been a couple of years since I've been here. And Dr. Christian is one of my dearest friends among ministers in our entire movement. So it is, of course, an honor and a joy to come here, and there's no way in the world that I would say no to an opportunity to come and be with this, my second family. So I thank you for welcoming me, and I thank you for being here. Today, yeah, you can clap for yourselves. Today, the topic is live free or die hard. And I grabbed that, in case you did not know, from a movie that's out, a Bruce Willis movie that's out that's been roaming around, one of the top grossing movies going on at this time. And so I'm not here, I don't want anyone going away saying that I'm endorsing the movie, that Reverend Nirvana said this is a great movie for us to all go out and see. I did enjoy it, however. But it has no spiritually redeeming qualities whatsoever. It's one of those straight-laced adrenaline rushes, action guy pictures. Lots of violence, bang, bang, shoot 'em up, running amok all over the place, cursing, the stuff guys like, But the title speaks truth. Live free or die hard. Either you're living free or you're dying hard. Either you're going to live in the truth of your identity as holy, sacred souls of God, or you're going to be dying hard. Either you're going to be dancing in the glory of all that God is as you, or your life is on a downhill trend, continually going nowhere fast. Live free or die hard. I have to always talk in the beginning of my talks a little bit about who it is that we really are. In Genesis, it talks about us created in the image and likeness of God, created out of the very stuff that is God. So that in truth, who it is that we really are is the divine holy presence of pure spirit in all of its magic and all of its beauty and all of its splendor and all of its radiance and all of its joyousness, magnificently exploding into expression as each and every one of us. So that each of us are the love of God, made visible in form. Each and every one of us are God so completely and joyously and ecstatically in bliss with itself that it orgasmically exploded into further expressions of itself, known as you and I. So who we are, our true identity, as proclaimed by Jesus the Christ himself, you are God's. That's our real identity. That's who we really are. And anything that we may be doing, or any way that we may be acting, or anything that we may be saying to ourselves, or any way that we may be behaving that is anything short of that is a lie. Anyone has told us that is about anything other than that divine idea, that definition of us, is a lie. Any way that we may be allowing for ourselves to have been captured by the monotony and the mundanity of the world in such a way that we are not living from that vision means that we are living a lie in our life and we are now a slave. Because know the truth, and the truth will what? The truth will what? Say it again. Set you free. So when you know the truth and you are standing in the truth of who you are and all of your radiance and magnificence and wonder and glory, then you are free. And if you ain't doing that, I'm sorry to tell you, you ain't nothing but a slave. So this is our true identity. This is who we really are. And dancing in the glory of that is where our true value is, where our true worth is, where our true beingness is, where the glory of all that the Holy Spirit has intended for us to be gets to express itself. Each of us is birthed with what I call our prime soul directive. And the prime soul directive is the purpose for which we were born to express, not what we were here to do. Too many times we end up defining ourselves based upon what we do. I'm a lawyer, I'm a minister, I'm a social worker, I'm a teacher, is the responses that people give to the question, who are you? But who you are is not determined by what you do. Who you are is who you be. I know that was not grammatically correct. But who are you in your being? We are human beings, not human doings. And therefore, the nature and essence of how we define ourselves is by what we allow for ourselves to be, what truth we stand in the midst of, what is the glory of the living Spirit that we allow to live in, through, around, and as us. And then that may express itself in the things that we do. But we are not defined by what we do, because then we have defined ourselves in a limited idea of who it is that we are. Who it is that we are, these wonderful, radiant, magnificent God beings. Glorious, magnificent, beautiful, powerful, profound, creative, intelligent, anything else you want to give in there as an adjective. All of that is who we are. And that isness, that beingness, then gets to express itself in a multitude of things that we do. But behind what it is that we do is the greater essence of who it is that we are. Allowing for who it is that we are to spring forth into ever greater expression in our life. So the love, the joy, the peace, the harmony, the wonder, the glory, the magnificence, the bliss, the ecstaticness, the creativity, the power, all of that is who we are. And we allow for all of that, the fullness of that, to come forth into expression in and as our life. And in that way, we are living gloriously and free. Jesus, when asked, no, he wasn't asked. Let me go back for a moment. He may have been asked, but in this story, he wasn't asked. In this story, he was rolling with his dogs, also known as his disciples, or in the language of my day, his boys, although he had some girls rolling with him too, but that's another story. So he's rolling with his dogs, which I really like, because you know a dog is a man's best friend, and dog is God spelled backwards. So our young folks know what they're talking about when they call one another, that's my dog over there. Loyal, best friend, present with you. So he's rolling with his boys, his dogs. And some people trap him, you know, and they're wanting to crucify him. They want to stone him because he's been saying things that they say is blasphemous. And so he says, for what of my great works are you trying to crucify me? And they say, oh, it's not for your works. We know your works are impeccable. You're healing folks. You're revealing truth. You're inspiring people. You're making folks happy. Heck, you even made me happy yesterday. But I still got to stone you today. For what? They said, oh, it's because you had the audacity to proclaim that we are gods. And he said, yo, hold it a minute, y'all. Is it not written in Scripture, Psalms 82, verse 6, back in the Old Testament, and we are Jews right now because there wasn't no Christians yet. Y'all, you know, Jesus didn't start a religion called Christianity, and the folks that were rolling with him, they weren't Christians yet. They were still Jews. So he says, is it not written in our books? Is it not the law in our books, Psalms 82, 6, that you are gods? So you can't stone me for upholding the gospel, for upholding the law. If you stone me, you're breaking the law. We need to be turning around and stoning you. And in that moment, they backed away. This is not the crucifixion story. This is not where they nailed him to the cross. In that moment, they backed away. They backed away because he was standing in the glory of what it is that was truth and reminding them of their real true identity as stated in Scripture and letting them know, I'm standing in the truth of that. I'm just glorifying that. I'm just glorifying who it is that you are, what it is that is your real identity, what it is that is your prime sole directive, the purpose and intention for which each and every one of us were born. And so what happens is we live in this life. And in this life, what begins to happen is that we're rolling around through life and we're doing the things that we need to do in life. All of life tends to be geared in a direction towards trying to get us all to fit in, trying to get us all to be indistinguishable from one another, trying to make sure that all of us fit into what is a nice, neat little niche that is not too far to the right or too far to the left. It's just kind of like right here where we all can be very comfortable and very politically and spiritually and sexually correct and all that other kind of stuff. But life has its immensity, has its awesome spread of multidimensionality. And the only way we fit in, really, is to be uniquely and authentically who it is that we are. I end up defining freedom as being authentically you. It's not trying to be what your mama says you ought to be, what your daddy says you ought to be, what the newspapers say you ought to be, what your boss says you ought to be, what your children say you ought to be, because, you know, our kids sometimes have ideas of how they think we're supposed to be as a parent, too. You know what I mean? That you are authentically allowing for the fullness of all that God is to spring forth into ever greater expression as all that you are. Now, there is a thing that I call the pillars of socialization. And the pillars of socialization are our home and parents, our schools, our churches, synagogues, mosques, places of worship, and the media. These are the pillars of socialization. They have been the places that have been most responsible for socializing us into living in the world like everybody else. If those places have not been telling you the truth of who it is that you really are, they've been contributing to the problem. They've been contributing to the lie. Not because they're bad or not because they're terrible, but simply because they didn't know any better themselves. So, unless any of you grew up in homes where your parents, not those of you who were raised in religious science, but your parents, how many of you grew up in homes where your parents said to you, I know that you are the divine, holy emanation of the living Spirit made visible in form. You are the Christ Almighty. You are the Buddhic mind. You are the Dalai Lama. We roll out the red carpet and we worship the very ground upon which you walk, oh dear great sage, saint, beautiful God being that you are. How many of you were raised in homes where that's what your parents said about you and that's how they treated you? Let me say. So, on the first pillar of socialization, in our home, it gets a big no. Lied to us right from Jump Street. They didn't know better, but the results are still the same. How many of you went to schools where the teachers and the principal and the counselors said, oh, what a great soul we have here. God Almighty has just walked in before us. Let us bow before him and worship the ground upon which he walks. Let us treat him as if he is the great Dalai Lama come to save us from our degradation. How many of you were in schools where that's what they said about you and that's how they treated you? So the schools don't measure up. Our places of worship where we think, God forbid, we think at least when we go to church, if the schools ain't telling us the truth, then our parents aren't telling us the truth. At least when we get into the church will tell us you are Christ beings. You are holy, eminent, powerful, radiant, magnificent, intelligent, profound, creative, glorious beings of light that has all of the potentiality of God, unlimited in all that you can do and be and express. But did any of us go to churches or synagogues or mosques when we were growing up that basically taught us that and treated us that way? One. I don't even have to ask the question about the media because we all grew up on the same media. So, we've been living in a world that has been programming and training us to act in a way that is not truly authentic with who it is that we are. And we try to reprogram everybody else to live in the world that same way. But this is what I love about our teens. Our teens I call the last bastion of defense. They're the ones who are still standing in that space where they're saying, not me. I refuse to be what it is you think I ought to be. I'm not here to fulfill your idea of what it is you think I ought to be, and I'm not going to go around in the world trying to measure up to the thing that you think I ought to be in the way that I ought to be it, how I ought to be doing it, doing the things you think I ought to be doing, dressing the way you think I ought to be dressing, taking the things in school you think I need to be taking. I'm going to do what I darn well please to do. Because I'm holding out for my holy sacred identity. I know who I am now. They may not say it that way. This is the translation. But the wonderful thing I love from my hanging out with teens in all of these years, and I've worked in the field for some 20, 30-something odd years, the things I love is the way they just tell the truth and the way they see through the hypocrisy. So they'll look at a human, they'll look at human beings and they'll look at their parents and they'll look at the adult world. Maybe their parents are wonderful and beautiful, but they'll look at the adult world and they'll see this condemnation of gangs. And on the other hand, a condoning of war. It's like, this is a hypocrisy. Ain't gangs and war the exact same thing? Fighting over the same thing in war, it's nations fighting over territory and fighting over money and fighting over resources and fighting over their turf. And in gangs, it's the same thing. It's just on a smaller scale. So our teens say, y'all is hypocrites. Y'all gonna condone this and condemn this. Make up your mind. Either say both of them are okay or say both of them ain't worth it for us as human beings to be engaged in. And that's what our teens tell us. And they'll tell you straight out when you stop and listen to them talk. They just tell you straight out. They look at the world and say, you condemn me for taking drugs, but when I go and open up your medicine cabinet in the bathroom, it's like drugs start falling out. They look around and they see starvation going on in the world. They see places where people are dying of hunger. And they look around and see that we're paying corporations, farmers, billions and billions of dollars every year to not grow food. Our teens know that. They're sharp. They're brighter than us, by the way, in case you all didn't know that by yet. And so they look at that kind of stuff and they say, I'm not signing up for that. Now, maybe 20 years down the line, they end up the same way we are, but in the interim, they're saying, I see something grander, something more magnificent, something more profound that I'm here to stand in. And even if I don't know exactly what that is yet, I know that this is not it. So they're standing as a wake-up call, reminding all of us who may have forgotten who it is that we are in our attempt to belong and fit in and try and become the drones of existence. They remind us, wake up. I know who you really are. You are sacred souls of God, even though I'm not saying it that way, but I do know who it is that you really are. The invitation, if we stop and listen, rather than try to say, oh, those teens and oh, this is what happens when they're adolescents and oh, I sure will be glad when they get past this and oh, can't they go back to when they were little or whatever the things may be that people say. When we stop and listen, there is a profound message that they are giving to all of us, something that they're inviting us to remember, something that they are inviting us to step back into the midst of so that we can live our life triumphantly, glorious and free, so that we can allow for ourselves to reclaim our divinity, to reclaim our power, to reclaim our authority, to reclaim our godliness, if you will, and dance in the magnificence and the wonder and the glory of all that we were ordained to be. It's like in the midst of all of this stuff that has gone on and all of the lies that have been told us by the pillars of socialization and that we've bought, and in our attempt to try and belong and fit in, that we've let go of our true, sacred, magnificent, radiant identity, we have become dead to our truth. In much the same way that the story of King Arthur, in the allegory of King Arthur, in the parable of King Arthur, when he discovers that his wife, Guinevere, and his best friend, Lancelot, are lovers, it crushes him. It breaks his heart. And for a moment, in his heartbrokenness, in his despair, in his deep and profound depression, he lets go. He lets go of his identity. And he goes off to mourn. Well, meanwhile, while he's off mourning, while he's abdicated the throne, evil begins to take over. Gray clouds have covered the sky and the sun is not shining anymore. Plants have died. People are in abject slavery. People are being treated cruelly without any sense of their beauty and their wonder and their magic and their majesty. And this ominous attitude, this ominous energy, this doom and gloom has taken over all of the land while King Arthur is brooding in his depression. And then somewhere in the midst of that, the beauty of this allegory is it talks really in terms of the connection, our connection to the earth, to the world, to everything. And in this moment, there's a moment where King Arthur has an awakening, an awareness, and remembers that he is king. And in his remembrance of his kingliness, if you will, he gets on his horse and he begins to ride back to the castle to reclaim his throne. And as he's rolling back to the castle to reclaim his throne, the flowers start blooming, the grass starts getting green, the gray clouds start to move away, and the golden auroric sun starts to shine, shine, shine. Animals start scurrying about and playing with one another and laughing and making love, and all kind of beautiful, glorious things are happening as he's on his horse riding back to reclaim his throne. He's reclaimed God within him. What has happened is in this space of us losing our identity, what began to contribute to that, and I didn't say this in the first service, was we created a sky god. And in creating a sky god, we put God on a pedestal as a human being, a guy at that, somewhere distant and apart from us. And prior to that, in our indigenous cultures, there was a profound goddess-worshiping thing, which was an embodiment of God. God in the body, God in the earth, God in everything around us, God in the mountains and in the seas and in the ocean and in the furry-legged creatures and in the gilled creatures and in the winged creatures that fly in our sky. So there was a greater sense of God amongst us, what Jesus was talking about when he said, the kingdom of heaven is within you. Don't let them tell you that the kingdom is over here and the kingdom is over there. That's what they're going to try and tell you when I'm gone. That it's over here, it's over there. No! The kingdom of heaven is within you. It is at hand. It's closer than hands and feet. It is very nature and essence of who it is that you are. You are a being of light and love and peace. Love God with all your heart and all your strength and all your soul and all your might and all of your entire beingness. Give the fullness of your being as the love of God expressing in all of its radiance and all of its magnificence. And so, the greater identity of who it is that we are these beautiful, radiant, powerful, magnificent lights. And in that, we're living free. And in not doing that, we look around and our world is dying. It is crumbling. But the only reason it is dying and it is crumbling is because we, moi, you and me, our brothers and sisters, are not truly standing in our truth, in our identity. We're like King Arthur off in a corner in deep depression because our heart has been broken. Get over it. Everybody's heart gets broken. That's part of being human. Our heart breaks so that we can crack open the love that we've been holding hostage inside of us. Break your heart, your connections, your attachments, trying to hold on to this, possess that, limit this, try and keep somebody from loving somebody else, because if they love somebody else, it means they can't love you, because God knows we can't love more than one person. But love is that which is our true identity. It has no limitation. It is not confined. It cannot be controlled. It cannot be made to go according to the plans of what you think it ought to be. It is free. It is wild. It is contagious. It is uncontrollable. It breaks out all over the place, everywhere, all the time, and that's who you are. I'm telling you, live free or die hard. Live free, and as we are living free in our truth and our authentic identity and the absolute reality of all that it is that we are, and not allowing for ourselves to be controlled or determined by the ways of the world, as we are living free, we look up and we see that all of a sudden the sky looks sunnier, the grass looks greener, the flowers are blooming ever more beautifully with such a sweet fragrance. Our world begins to clear up. We begin to entertain ideas and ways in which we can take care of feeding everybody and housing everybody and taking care of everybody's health. We begin to discover ways in which we can allow for our delusional sense of separation to drop away, so that racism and sexism and homophobia and all those other isms and nationalism that divide us and separate us begin to just drop away, because we stand in the authentic prime awareness that we are one. Created in the image and out of the stuff that is God, we are one, which is our first core concept in religious science. God is all there is, everywhere present as each and every one of us. It's the first two steps of treatment. God is, I am. It's in the Holy Bible. The Lord thy God is one. Worship none before him. Love God with all your heart and all your strength and all your might, meaning with your entire beingness. We begin to dance in that awareness. And as we dance in that awareness, as we dance in that truth, we are living our life free, authentically, gloriously, magnificently, and the world being connected to us and one with us, inseparable from us, and we being given stewardship over it, because that's what dominion means. It means stewardship over. It doesn't mean dominating and controlling. It comes from the word union. Union is in dominion. Dome means with. So union with all of reality. We begin to move in that space, and our glorious planet begins to take on the outer exterior appearance of the magnificence and the radiance and the power of Eden in which it was created, and we get to walk partaking of all of its fruits and all of its benefits in the glorious life that is our life, the life of God. So I invite for each and every one of us to take off the shield, take off the armor, take off the illusion, take off the notions that we have been fed, that we've been taught. Just take them off. Take those garments off and stand naked before God in all of your glory, in all of your splendor, and all of your beauty, and all of your radiance, and all of your magnificence, and all of your power, and all of your creativity, and all of your love, your deep and profound love. And allow for that which is the prime soul directive, the great intention for your life, to spring forth into ever greater expression everywhere with everyone. And in so doing, you are moving into what I call our group prime soul directive. And our group prime soul directive is simple. It's, can't we just all get along? To quote the great prophet Rodney King. The prime soul directive is that we are here to lovingly support and nurture each other in being true to that which is the sacred calling of our hearts and soul. In other words, we are here to love one another, to love one another into our freedom, to love one another into our glory, to love one another into our magnificence, to love one another into our wonder, to love one another into our peace, into our joy, into our ecstasy, into our bliss, to love each other into freedom, to love our world into freedom. That's our group prime soul directive. And that, my dear brothers and sisters, is the reason I'm alive. And so it is.
So I'd like to invite the ushers to come forward as we do take our gift from our heart. Again, with a lot of heart and soul and passion. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am prosperous now. Hey, I trust you enjoyed that podcast. It was very exciting to be able to create that and to know that there are people like you all around the world that are observing and integrating these spiritual principles into their life. And so if you enjoyed it, what I'd like to do is encourage you to tell a friend or bring several friends together and watch another one of these podcasts, and then afterwards take some time to talk about the spiritual principles, to talk about the stories and what significance they have and relevance they have in your life. What then happens is it moves to a deeper and deeper level in your world. It becomes real and assists you to create the freedom in your life that your heart and soul so desire. So if you like this, I encourage you to watch it again, but also tune into our website here at seasidecenter.org. There, you can get some of my written material and take a look at it. You can read some of my spiritual prayers. You can even go to our online bookstore and order some of the books. And if you're so moved, what I greatly would appreciate is your financial support, which you could do online at seasidecenter.org. It is support like yours that assists us to be able to continue to do these kinds of gifts for humanity and send it out to the world. Because you know what? We are making a difference with this spiritual message. And because of support like yours, people are being touched in the farthest reaches of this planet, as well as our backyard, more than we could ever begin to realize. So I thank you from the fullness of my heart for making a difference.